The world as we know it has changed forever. We have to unite more than ever. It has never been easier to connect. Social media is the great equalizer. As we continue to learn from each other, it allows us to challenge our beliefs, turn our fears into action. How far can we go? It's up to us. We have to conquer our fears, crush mediocrity, stay motivated, dream big. If your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. In the think tank, we will never settle for anything less than an extraordinary life. Welcome to the think tank, Anselm. How are you today?
I'm fine, Martin. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
Great, great. I mean, the world is such a small world. You're all the way in my little island, St. Lucia, in the Caribbean. I'm in Tampa, Florida. And it's just amazing through artificial intelligence that we can talk. And, you know, I spoke to a gentleman in Thailand a few weeks ago, 12 hours apart, and it was just as clear as daylight, and we had a good conversation. But I was just intrigued by my younger sister told me a little bit of what you did. And I've been down that path for the last 20 years in reference to real estate. And when I tell people I've never had a job, and it's not that I'm a lazy guy, I'm the most ambitious person you ever want to know. But the fact that I tell people that I've never had a job tells you my mindset. Okay, if you can do it, this other guy can do it, I can do it. It was just in me from a child. And when I grew up, went to university, did all what I had to do, I just knew that I can do it. And when I saw what you did, you transitioned from what you did to what you're doing now, I said, wow, I got to have a conversation with this guy, man, you know? And so tell me a little bit about how you started in it. Tell me a little bit about it.
So I'm 47, and I went to grad school. I went to UA undergrad in Jamaica, University of the West Indies, then grad school in Manchester. Initially, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but somewhere just before, university, I figured I couldn't really read words for 5 years only. I didn't particularly love math, but I knew that you had to do math, and I just didn't think I should. I wanted to read. Yeah, the arguments would be good, the research is great, but I didn't think I wanted to read. So I told my mother at the time, let me just do a basic management degree, and I'll do law, my second degree. When doing management, I fell in love with social psychology, cognitive reasoning, and the decision-making theory, and that was it. And that led me down to marketing. But I was never interested in what I call the colors and crayons of marketing. I was interested in the numbers behind marketing. I was interested in what research, what definitive parameters, were to be used in creating a product, in setting pricing, in getting that custom fit. Because it's often said that once a product is designed well for a particular audience or particular segment, it sells itself. Right. You don't need to do any promotion. And of course, you have to think of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs made us realize that we needed things that we didn't know we needed. And now we can't do without it. So I work in telecoms. I still work in telecoms. I left telecoms in 2015. Officially, I retired, quote unquote. But then, all that means is I took the severance package after 17 years. I spent 2 years out, and then I came back after when a friend of mine called me back to support. But I was always interested in land, in buying land. I was never interested in fancy cars and luxurious items. I just always felt that land was a good investment because of how we were raised. And the idea for most St. Lucian and Caribbean people is that you buy land and later on, when you're old, you put some apartments and become like a landlord.
Here's somebody said to me, land pa pui. You remember that?
Yeah, land never rots.
Never rots.
Yeah. Yep. That's what they tell us. Land never rots. So land is always a good investment. But of course, there are exceptions, as I told you. You could have a nice piece of land, and then the government wants a highway next door, or somebody with zoning rights and authority can put a pig farm or some stable or pig pen or chicken coop. That definitely will cause depreciation in your land.
Right.
But I started by buying land, and I got married. Amazing wife, and we had our home. The home was 3 stories, and of course I left downstairs like a lot of North American houses as a basement, but it wasn't underground. It was just on a slope.
Right.
And I really had intentions of doing my man cave, where you would go away, retire, get your own space. I'd ordered the pool table already, surround sound speakers, big screen TV. You know, I love sports like a lot of other men. And you know, a friend of mine told me it's a waste of money. You know, if I want to play pool, he's going to take me to play pool.
Right.
If I want music, he'll buy me music. He was a good friend of mine, and I really appreciated that advice. And so I went to the bank, and we got a small loan, and it wasn't much to the mortgage, and we built the apartment, 2-bedroom apartment, and within 3 months, 4 months, that apartment was rented even before we were finished.
Wow.
Coming to roughly 50% of our mortgage. And I was like, what? And that was it. I started reading. I got a really insatiable appetite for knowledge on real estate investing, especially when I discovered that 95% of the wealthiest people in the world, you know, certainly have real estate within their portfolio, you know, as a stabilizing base. And so, you know, convinced my wife over time, you know, we really should start doing something about the properties that we have, developing them. But financing wasn't very easy, because once you have one mortgage as your primary place of residence, any other loan you go to the bank, whether you have equity or not, they will see this as a quote unquote investment property, which will attract a business interest rate.
Right.
Now, I know that, you know, people in developed countries like the US and the UK and maybe Canada, the rate I'm going to quote now, they might laugh at me. So for me, a good rate was 7.25% for a mortgage, you know, 6.99%. Right now it's 5%, but that's like 20 years later, or 16 years later. And so for that quote unquote investment property, I couldn't get a rate lower than 10%.
Wow.
So we got a loan of rate of 10%, and we built 4 condos. Our first building with 4 condos. Wow. That's in addition to the apartment below our house. Okay. But all this time, knowing what I knew now, I recognized that I needed to have more units. Right. So I wanted to offload the house that our home with the apartment downstairs. Right. So I sold it, you know, collected some cash. Right. And I bought another piece of property in the same area, same views. I believe in sea views. I believe in sunset views, because I call it my recession buffer, that if you know the market, you know, kind of goes soft, you know, that differentiator, having a sea view, you know, as a relaxing element, is always going to help me, you know, kind of weather the rough patches. And so in the same area, we now piece of land, and since we sold the house, we could now get a mortgage at a preferential rate, because remember, at this time we're still carrying the 10%, the business rate for the condo block.
For the apartment,
So, right. So knowing what I know now, I put 4 floors, but I didn't build it yet. I built a house on the top floor. So that was my new mortgage at the 6%. And then I think it was time to leave my job at the time. So
you took the plunge.
I took the package, the severance package, 17 years, and I took all that money and put it into that building.
Wonderful.
Mortgage on top, and I put all that money into six units below.
Wonderful.
Which would then, the 6 would be added to the 4 we have. That's 10.
Right.
But I was always afraid, to be honest. I was always afraid of having a lot of cash. Because I was younger then, and I always felt that, you know, emergencies may come and just wipe you out, or you might be tempted. But my mother, even while I was married, still gave me advice. And she said, you know, don't be one of those people who would take their retirement money and invest it in a business, you know, and the business might not do well. So you lose your retirement money in the business, and you have to go back to work. So I feel that if I put it in a hardcore brick and mortar investment that I can manage, and I know that I'm going to get residual income, rental income every month beyond the mortgage, primarily because of my location.
Mm-hmm.
The location I choose would be in the developing part of the island, close to supermarkets, restaurants,
Right. Mm-hmm.
shopping, close to bus routes. I felt I was in a good
Yeah, yeah,
position. So
but listening to you, all that knowledge, where did that knowledge come from? You know, and, you know,
that came from
this is
reading.
you act like a developer. I've been doing this stuff for 30 years, and I'm listening to you, and I'm saying, but this guy knows what he's talking about.
I've listened to more than 1,000 podcast episodes.
Okay.
I've read the dozen
Mm-hmm.
books, and it started
Wonderful.
with Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, talking about the transition of making real assets, which are cash generating assets.
Right.
These are the real assets.
The quadrants.
Yeah, and moving from the employee quadrant to the investor quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
That sparked off, you know, a real interest and appetite for learning and what I didn't know. And I sought out quite a number of developers.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say to date, I'm very grateful for them, Martin, because, you know, they were, and I haven't met a developer who is selfish with information.
No.
I haven't met that.
Yeah.
Every developer I've met, the one thing they all say, and I say too, is that we wish we would have started earlier.
I know. Yep.
That's one. And the second one, they give the information freely, and I'm always grateful. And that's why I think it's a duty that I have to pass it on and to help others. So so we had those units. I took the plunge. You know, I put all my money into those building, and for 2 years, I really built out those apartments, and it was almost like the best 2 years of my life.
Wow. That's wonderful. Well, you know, it's a journey. In 2008, when the market crashed in the US and it was a worldwide recession, you know, I got caught with my pants down too. You know, I had like 29 properties. I lost about $9 million in assets. But you know what? That time was the single best time of my life. Because in those down times, in those challenges, that's where we grow. You know, that's where we get it just growth. That's where the growth is. And I have learned so much from that downtime. You know, my mindset is different. I don't drive a Mercedes anymore. I didn't have to have a BMW. You know, I drive a simple Toyota right now. You know, it has changed my mindset about how I live. Because today, as an entrepreneur, you know, when you're young, you're flashy, you want to do this, you care what people think. Nowadays, I don't care if you don't like me. That's not my problem.
Peace of mind.
There you
Peace
go. I
of
don't care
mind
if anybody doesn't like
peace of mind.
Martin. It's not my problem. Sometimes people think that I was arrogant, egotist. No, man. Let me tell you, when you have confidence in your own ability, like I can hear you talk about it, the confidence you have. Everything starts with you. It starts with you. It doesn't matter who cares, as long as you feel good about it. You have a plan. You don't just go crazy. You had a plan. You took your severance. You did this. You built the top. You had a vision. And I mean, let me tell you, man, I applaud you, buddy. I applaud you. And this, the fact that
I will say, Martin, that, you know, having a good partner, it could be a wife, it could be you know, a relative, it could be a business partner. It does make a significant difference. Now, when people talk about good partners, it's about complementarity.
Yes,
it's not about agreeing with you. It's someone with a different skill set as yourself, where 1 + 1 = 3.
Right.
You know, and I was fortunate, you know, to have a wife who performed that and brought that to the table, and she guided me a lot. You know, when I had this idea, she said, "Do not bring any pie in the sky dreams for me. Show me the money. How is this gonna bring back a return?
Right.
Have you thought about the details?" So I was big picture, and she was implementer.
Trust me, I have a similar wife who keeps me balanced. Like I can tell you, at my age, I've never had a job. I started off flipping houses at 22 years old, right out of university. And again, I used the leverage of one of my best friends in track and field. He was this white guy. He was a trust fund baby. You know,
wow.
I mean, I was fortunate. His parents had money. He had a trust fund when he was in college, and he didn't know what to do with his money. So we teamed up and we started flipping houses. So we would flip it, we would cut it in half. He get me get. Eventually, I did 3 or 4 with him. Now I created my own cash flow to start doing my own. So, you know, it's similar to and I listened to you is, you know, when Deanne was telling me about you, and I listened to your 2 earlier podcasts, in fact, the third one today, and I realized that we have so much in common, even if we're so far away now. I didn't have that vision when I left home when I was 17. But I was home in 94. I came home when my mother was sick. I came home for like six years. And I didn't do any construction for some reason. I had a tour business. I had a rainforest tour business. I'm an entrepreneur. I had a little shop in the corner of BZ. When you go into BZ, I call it AMPM Mini Market.
Yeah.
I had 3 pizza parlors, Pepper's Pizza.
I know Pepper's Pizza.
Yeah. So I've done a lot, and I have no idea if I'll be home again because there's so many things going on in my life, but you never know. But real estate has always been the base of my existence, and right now,
go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, and right now I'm getting back into on the development side again. Just the fact that I listened to you and that at the end, it kind of pushed me back. Well, I gotta look at some lots again,
Yeah. But the thing is, Martin, when people hear the story, what they don't hear is what you did before.
Right.
It's because I tried a marketing business. I thought that was my skill set, but right. I was not on the promotional side. I was always on the numbers and analytical side of marketing.
Right.
And the Caribbean, I don't think that there's a lot of scope for marketing roles that are not advertising and promotion. Mm-hmm. But there are, and these are more commercial managers' jobs.
Right.
Because you sit between marketing and the CFO. You sit between the promoter and the CFO. Mm-hmm. And that role sometimes can be non-existent in most organizations.
Right.
So I saw from very early on that I wanted to do something. I had this feeling inside always. I was a dreamer. Right. And I had a saying, a long time ago, when, I think when, somebody, a friend of mine would tell me, stop daydreaming, man, stop dreaming. I say, I'm not dreaming. This is called pre-implementation planning.
Right.
What it is. And so in my spare time, believe it or not, I would have on my computer like 10 folders. I just exploring different businesses, just doing research. Mm-hmm. And it got to a point where I stopped. I used to like reading Fast Company and Inc. magazine when I passed through airports. After a while, I stopped buying it. I said, I don't want to be reading about anybody else's story.
Right.
I want to read about I want to write my story now.
You want to write.
But I've always felt that your motive must be right.
Yes.
And the motive was never to have money for material. No. The motive was always to have money to be free to own my time so I can do more of the things that I want to do and help others more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was always the objective. And so the 2 years when I was free, I will tell you, learning construction, and in the US, the UK, those markets, you don't have a lot of self-builders unless it's a real extravagant project. Right. So I had to develop, my own connections, my own experiences. I started with a TV station. I had a concept of a TV station with a partner of mine from school. He was in Atlanta, consultant. We created a sports TV station where I thought I wanted to give back to my country and, let's showcase, the young boys and girls who were doing tremendous things. And by doing that, we would engender and create a whole new wave of nationalism and the spirit in my country. And you try that and you realize that you need to keep this funded. Mm-hmm. So, our monthly cost was in excess of 20K.
Right.
My partner and I, we were both working, and we had this running on its own. And another lesson you learn, which is a very expensive lesson, is that, and Robert Kiyosaki said that you have to mind your own business.
That's right.
You have to be in your business. You have to know what's coming, what's going, what's your strength, the strength of your proposition, your competitor, your staff. Where the risks are. And if you're fortunate, you work hard at getting a good manager. But I guarantee you, in rare cases, will you find the ability to appoint a manager who cares about your business more than you or just as much as you.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I can give you a story. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneur my whole life. And let me give you a short story. A case in point, when I was home, I had 3 pizza parlors, Pepper's Pizza. And one day I got a call. I had just bought cheese for the pizza. I went to get where we bought it from. Anyway, there's 4 blocks of cheese in a case, right? And if you're going to run a pizza business or any business, you want to know everything about that business. So I knew the yield. 1 block of cheese gave me 30 pizzas. Okay, nobody knew about me because I did my research. So if I have a block of 4 cases in a 4 blocks in a case, that's 120 pizzas. 120 pizzas. So the next day, I just bought a case of cheese, right? the manager calls me and say, boss, we don't have any cheese. So I say, I'll be down in a minute. So I look at all of the slips, the paper slip, they were, they only had like 60 pizzas, half the thing. There's no way you can run out of cheese. The cheese walked.
Yeah. Wow.
So the point I'm making is you have to know about your business. So I fired everybody, but nobody knew what 2 blocks of cheese walked, right? So how can you have 120, only 60 pizzas are made and 2 blocks of cheese gone? I give or take 10%, 20%. But the fact I'm saying, the point I'm saying is that I knew everything about the pizza business before I started. So you're so right.
But the thing about it also is even those of us proactive enough to educate ourselves on our own and take that first step, the information you get, you must also translate it. But I mean, I deliberately watch podcast videos from Australia, the UK, the US, and Canada. I just didn't do South America because I think it's mainly Spanish.
Right.
But I had those 4 different markets.
Right.
Hearing podcasts on real estate, different approaches, all different strategies. I guarantee, Martin, you have at least 6 or 7 more strategies you can employ in the US than I can in St. Lucia.
Oh yes.
You have the lease options. You have in the UK, you have interest-only mortgages.
Right.
If we had interest-only mortgages in the Caribbean, I would have left work long time ago. And the biggest benefit of the interest-only mortgages is that when we pay our mortgages, there's principal and there's interest. So on a $400,000 mortgage, at 10% you pay for roughly $4,000 a month.
Right, roughly, yeah.
And of that $4,000 a month, perhaps 60% may go to interest, and 40% go to principal, or less, or 70% interest.
Yep.
Do you know in the interest-only mortgages, you keep that principal amount, you don't pay that. So you live off that rental. You literally live off that rental every month. Right. You keep that interest payment only for 10 years. The property cycle is roughly 18 years, say 20 years, 15, 20 years. You just refinance the mortgage. You pay it off, because by that time, the time value of money would have been a lot more equity you'd have gained.
Right.
So the mortgage would have been so small, and you cash out to do something else. But you would have lived off that property literally. Right. For us in the Caribbean, I recognize that I didn't have that. So my strategy was a mixed strategy, and that's what I've been preaching. I don't know anyone who's done that. The moment I built that first apartment below my house, I recognized I need to do some subdivision and some condominiumization. Right. And typically in my country, that's only been reserved for high-end property in Cap Estate and tourism development. I'm not sure I stand to be corrected, but I think I was the first to do the Condominium Act for properties under 500,000 EC dollars, like 180,000 EC. But my market was always solutions abroad, like you, who go by the mother's house, typically spend 1 day, 2 days, and then go to a hotel.
It's true.
So you have your own spot. You have your own spot. You want to rent it out. When you come, you keep your can declare, but you have your own space, modern, whatever you want. Once I recognized the cost of putting a second unit was not double as we would expect. So you have one house, you add another unit. You think it's not double. It's like 1.25%.
Right.
Just during the construction process, do another piece. 1.5%. 1.5 times, but not 2. So I will always do multifamily. And then now this is where the kicker comes in. I sell some of the multifamily. I sell because my job is to recreate my salary that I had.
Sure.
Yeah. So I do 4 units. I sell 2. 2 pays back my mortgage.
Right.
Done. So and I have 2 cash flowing positive, and I do the process again.
Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat.
Rinse it again. And every property I have, once I've sold, is free and clear.
Yeah.
So when I tell you I've done it 4 times and I have 8 properties, free and clear, I literally don't need to work. However, you need to have a cash pot, because in our market, financing is challenging. And one of the reasons I went back, in addition to helping my very good friend and just helping the business in my country, was because you get a loan once you have a job. And I've always challenged the bank on that. I understand on paper it looks good.
Right.
But if you have 6, 7, 8 properties, let's say they discount your cash flow for rent for vacancies, 50%.
Right.
They can have a lien on the leases and use that. But they say no, they still want the salary deduction. And I'm saying, okay, I get a salary deduction today, I lose my job tomorrow, and I have the loan. So you're not necessarily genuinely assessing the risk. But anyway, that's the rules. And my mother always told me, if you want something belong to somebody, they have the terms and conditions. Once you accept those terms and conditions, don't complain. Don't complain. So I get the loan, I sell a portion of the units, I subdivide, and I do it over and over and over. But it's challenging, but I love the process. Initially, I thought I would have enjoyed the design phase, but actually, right now, to me, it's too much. I like creating the concept, doing the numbers, and actually seeing the concept created, finished, and the numbers starting to come in. That's where I get the joy. When I see the numbers starting to come in, not the colors of the curtains or the sofa. No. So that's the strategy. So I do multifamily, I sell some, and I keep the rest.
That's a good model. That's a very good model. Very good model. I mean, like I said, it mimics a lot of what I've done. But in the market in the U.S., because of the way we have right now, there's a plethora of foreclosures coming down the pike because of COVID. We have like 15 million homes in foreclosure. And
opportunity.
I'm telling you. So I mean, it's a disadvantage for one, but it's an advantage. So what we, myself and my partners are looking, we are positioning ourselves because the government is still propping up everybody until July. So there's nothing can happen. No foreclosures can happen. So when that happens, people, when they lose their job, both husband and wife lose a job. I mean, they just walk away. They're in survival mode. So we're here to pick up the pieces and we try to help. We don't try to steal the houses, but take them and just work with them somehow. But
I mean, the other effect of that is that I'm thinking that you probably have a smaller tenant pool, a smaller tenant pool, but if those will get jobs again, whereas they might not be able to afford a mortgage, they might be able to afford a rental.
For a rental, there you go. Exactly. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, what I would have done is still have my apartments, but I was more into single family. They were moving so fast. Single people flipping them so fast, buying them, selling them, flipping them. I would have stayed. Had a portfolio of apartments, but you can't go back. You can only go forward.
Can't go back, buddy. You learn. So you learn from that experience.
Exactly right, man. But I just wanted to bring you on, man, and chat with you for a while. Just to tell the world, that even in St. Lucia, man, you can still do what you want to do. You can do it in land development on a small scale, on a big scale. It doesn't matter. Concept. You surround yourself with the right people, and then you just go all in. You do your homework. You do your research.
Another benefit that I had and I benefited a lot from it was a realtor on the island. She invited me to a meeting on a Saturday morning. I love coffee. I love fresh ground coffee. Right. She tried to St. Lucian coffee. We should send some to some of your listeners, St. Lucian coffee.
I know.
Maybe they can win some St. Lucian coffee.
There you go.
Go and have some coffee. And she said, I want you to meet some people. She introduced me to two other people doing what I was doing, different ways. They were doing houses and selling them. So just normal guys working, they build a house, they live in it, they sell it. Now once you're working, you can always get one mortgage once you're working.
Right.
And so that's the easiest way to become wealthy or to amass cash, from property investment, property development. And for us in the Caribbean, that's the easiest way. So you sell your house and you do it over and do it over again.
That's right.
And in the three of us, I was the only one doing multifamily, and those guys were doing single family.
Right.
And she said she sold a house to each of us over the years, and that we all had something in common, and it was really, really good complementary skill set. So up to today, it's like 3, 4, 5 years, we're still together. We used to meet every Saturday on our own. Every Saturday, I'm going to drive to look for property. Every Saturday for the last 15 years, whatever country I'm in. If I'm in Tampa, I go look for property in Tampa on that day. I might not be able to buy, but I watch. When I was in the Bahamas.
Hold on. We call it in the US driving for dollars.
Yeah. And I go to open houses. I look at designs. I look at creative ways to use small spaces and find out what people like. So we met, and the guys were telling me I should slow down. You know, because whenever I'm doing anything, I'm doing 5 kitchens, you know, 5 living rooms, 10 bathrooms. Whereas they do 1 kitchen, 2 bathrooms, or 3 bathrooms. And I actually went and said, you know what, my next project, you know, a little more upmarket, I'm going to, you know, want a really nice villa.
Right.
Go to architect, drew plans, about to send the plans to approval. And the other guy said, you know what, Anselm, we've never done multifamily, we're going to do a duplex. So we kind of swap, you know, because we learn from each other.
Right.
You know, Martin, you know, I didn't submit the plans. I couldn't do it. Because I was looking at this lot. I'm saying, you know, I could do 3 units.
I can't maximize that, but yeah.
Say I want to pay for my building and have 2, free and clear. And so instead of doing 4, I did 3. I did 3. And my guy did 2. First time he did 2. Wow. And guess what? 6 months ago, he dug downstairs and he moved in to his building, his new building. So he has 3 floors. Wow. And he's like, Anselm, this is, but most solutions don't have multifamily structures.
It's a new concept for them,
because they believe that, you know, you won't have any privacy. If you design it well enough, you're gonna have different entrances.
Right. Cash flow. It's about cash flow. You just teach them about cash flow. I've always believed, I mean, everything that I've done, I have to have cash flow. Because if I'm self-employed, I don't get a check from anybody. I don't get every month or 2 get a check. No, it's about cash flow. I have to have cash flow. You know, that's how I live. I don't like to live where I scrimp. No, I like, life is meant to be lived. I'm not extravagant, but I love to live. I love to live well. And if you live well, number 2 things you have to have. You have to work hard and you got to have cash flow. Okay? I'm not afraid of working hard. I don't think you are either. But man,
but once you work for yourself and you do it, you get great joy.
Oh yes,
great joy.
There's a big, and I give back just like you. I always share my knowledge. If you have knowledge, there's nothing knowledge, and you keep it to yourself, you can't advance it. Zig Ziglar always said, if you help enough people get what they want, you know what? You'll get what you want. The universe, God, Jah, whatever you call it, it gives back to you. You know, in tremendous ways. You can't keep knowledge, man. No, it's no way. I can learn from you. I can still learn from you and what you've done. And what you've done has propelled me now to think a little bit different again, because it's a learning process. I'm not too embarrassed to say I learned from you. No, I learned from my sister. You learn from everybody. You open your minds.
You learn from everybody. My 2 favorite sayings, you know, as follows. Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you seek.
Right.
Instead of asking people to change, you have to demonstrate that change first. That you are capable of change before you ask others. And the second one, which is so relevant to what I do now, I'm still back in telecoms full time, but part time on my weekends, my late nights, you know, I do my property investing. But I've also started a podcast, you know, called Caribbean Property Investing, available on all podcast platforms, or you can check it on CaribbeanPropertyInvesting.com. And the second favorite saying is, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Wonderful.
I genuinely believe that if I do good, I get good in return. I believe that. I believe that. And nobody can change my mind on that.
Nobody can, exactly. So
and anybody we help, anybody we help, all we ask for is that they help somebody else.
Right.
That's all we ask.
That's right. Good. Before we exit, tell everybody, if they want to invest in St. Lucia, or if they wanted to know a little bit about your company, what's the best medium to get a hold of you?
I mean, you could. I'm on LinkedIn.
Right.
I'm on LinkedIn, Anselm Mathurin, ANSELM MATHURIN, or they could just go to CaribbeanPropertyInvesting.com. And check us out there, or CaribbeanPropertyInvesting@gmail.com.
Right.
We're right there. I mean, we have a number of projects. There are great opportunities. There are IBC structures, offshore structures.
Good.
There are great incentives for persons who want to invest. Specifically, there's a tourism incentive that once you do more than 6 rooms, you get tax holidays, you get concessions, you get a lot. And the government wants new investors in our country.
Wonderful.
You know, it doesn't have to be a big project.
Yeah.
And what I learned from the 2 guys that the realtor put us in touch with, that we meet every Saturday, is that take things in small pieces, in small chunks, small bites. You know, so I don't want anybody to come invest $10 million with me.
Okay.
We do 1 million. Wonderful. You know, or let's do 500,000. You know, strategic alliance, joint venture, and we go from there. Good. And ultimately, I'm interested in bringing value and helping my country and creating employment as well.